Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new video on the Pole Position YouTube channel. In this video I'm going to be reviewing the Styrian Grand Prix. Yes, the Styrian Grand Prix. It was the name used for the second Austrian Grand Prix, and obviously that happened on Sunday. Decentish race. I mean, it wasn't obviously as good as the first race we had at the Red Bull Ring the weekend before. That had everything, like we said, the amount of retirements, and obviously we've spoken about it as well, and Valtteri Bottas getting the win, Lewis Hamilton finishing fourth, meaning he obviously has more to do in the remaining races. Obviously at the Styrian Grand Prix, I think that the best time of the weekend was the qualifying session. If you haven't watched the qualifying, even though you will know probably the race by now, I'd still recommend watching the qualifying because it really was, a great qualifying session in the rain, and yeah, they put on a great show. All the drivers did a tremendous job in the conditions, and obviously Lewis Hamilton did the best, putting an amazing lap, over a second faster than his teammate and Max Verstappen, and really put on an amazing performance and an amazing lap, and totally deserved his pole position going into Sunday. And again, going straight into it really in terms of the review, Lewis Hamilton didn't really put a foot wrong. I think he did an amazing job, like I said, on qualifying, and then used that into the race, and even from the first lap onwards, he controlled all 71 laps. He didn't look like he was phased. Even Max Verstappen, who was did okay in second place, but couldn't really get anywhere near Lewis Hamilton. And obviously Valtteri Bottas had a lot more to do in terms of managing his strategy, trying to catch the pack back up, and did a good job in the fact that he obviously overtook Max Verstappen and maintains that point gap. I think that's important. Like I've said at the start of the season, I think Valtteri Bottas really needs to make sure that when he doesn't win races this year, he gets second place. He gets maybe a fastest lap, that extra point here and there. So he did his job in the sense that he got second place, and obviously if you can't get first, you get second, and obviously that was what Bottas did. So he's still in the lead in terms of the standings, and I think that was important for him. Obviously there have been times before when Hamilton's finished first and Bottas has finished maybe fifth or sixth, and if he wants to win this season and win the championship, that's something that he can't afford to do. So yeah, in terms of that, good performance from Bottas, first 1-2 for Mercedes of the season. In regards to Red Bull, their home track for the first two races didn't really look like they had the pace to sort of deal with Mercedes at this point, even though they had issues with the curbs last week, which didn't really hamper them this time round. Red Bull didn't really look like they had much. Like I said, Verstappen was first few laps in, was already getting into the 5 seconds behind Hamilton, so it looked like Mercedes were sort of pacing the race and had full control. Verstappen did a good job to try and keep Bottas behind, and kept him behind an extra lap, which was good battling between the two drivers. But yeah, ultimately Bottas had the tyres, and he had the pace overall to pass him in the DRS zone. So good performance by Verstappen. Get the points what you need. If you can stay in that position, you make sure you get the third place, which he did. Albon, for going into the other Red Bull driver, a little bit critical of Albon this week. I think this was he had a couple of, obviously had the issues with Hamilton in the first round of the championship in the Austrian Grand Prix. Had a couple of issues, couple of spins in practice on Friday, and a couple of issues with that Red Bull, and yeah, just a little bit disappointing. I mean, qualifying, okay, it's raining, anyone can be anywhere in terms of their qualifying performance, but I just think, if you're in the same seat as Max Verstappen and you're 20 seconds behind him, at one point he was in the race, and when Verstappen came in for a pit stop, Albon was only just coming around the corner, so he was a full pit stop behind Verstappen, and he was getting caught more by the racing point of Sergio Perez than he was catching the pack of Bottas and Verstappen. So yeah, a little bit disappointing for Albon this weekend, and really for the first two, to be honest. Obviously had that issue, like I said, with Hamilton in the first week. Needs to make sure when he goes into Hungary that he gets rid of these issues, because we have seen with Red Bull, they are they don't take any sort of issues, and they will replace the driver if they feel they're not doing well enough. And You know, we saw that when Albon replaced Gasly last year. So yeah, I mean, I know we're only 2 races in and that, but you know, Albon I think really does need to pick up in terms of, you know, where and if he wants to stay in that Red Bull seat. So yeah, that, you know, that's in regards to them. I mean, Ferrari, you know, where do I even begin with Ferrari? Brought some upgrades to the track. Felt that was obviously needed. Didn't really do much in terms of the upgrades in the Friday practice. Was still quite low down the order. Qualifying was disappointing again. You know, like I said, rain, you know, you can be anywhere on the circuit in terms of the wet weather when that appears for qualifying, but again, you know, appeared quite low down. And then, you know, obviously in the middle of the pack when it comes to the first lap. But you don't expect both Ferrari drivers to bump into each other on the third corner of the first lap, I think, where Vettel had his spin the week previously. Leclerc goes for a gap that looks to be there, and then instantly the door's shut, and you know, seems to ride the rear wing of Sebastian Vettel's car. Again, first time in a while that a Ferrari collision has happened where you can't blame Sebastian Vettel for anything in that. That was totally Charles Leclerc's fault. Vettel could do nothing about it, you know, was sort of a passenger in losing his front wing. So a little bit disappointing for Vettel. You know, Leclerc came out and instantly apologised when he got out of the car and said it was my fault, and he was sorry to the team and sorry to Vettel and the fans and everything. So, you know, they've obviously learned from that, not what they needed in terms of wanting to learn from the upgrades that they bought. You know, this is going to be the 3rd race now going into Hungary this weekend coming, where they still don't know where they are in terms of their pace and in terms of bringing upgrades to the car, which for Ferrari is an absolute disaster to be 3 races in and not really knowing where they are. I mean, obviously they got that podium on the first week for Leclerc, which was sort of out of nowhere in terms of the race pace of the car didn't really deserve to be up in that, but you obviously take what you get. But yeah, really poor from Ferrari, and obviously can only surely get better. Shout out to Racing Point as well. Did a tremendous job. Looked really good in practice, and obviously Sergio Perez practice, I think free practice 1 finished first, and finished quite high in second practice as well. Qualifying though wasn't as good. You know, started in 17th, had a bit of a poor show in qualifying. You know, again, wet weather conditions may have had an effect, but he managed to get that Racing Point from 17th all the way to 6th position in the end. You know, could have got 4th. You know, like I said, he was fighting Alex Albon for that position and lost his front wing in regards to that fight between him and Albon. Then obviously got overtook by Lando Norris on the final corner because he had a broken front wing, so it almost got passed by Stroll and Ricciardo as well, if you see the photo finish replay, really. But tremendous job by Perez. Perez got driver of the day. In my opinion, he was also driver of the day, so if I was going to name that, it would be Sergio Perez as well. I think it was tremendous to get that car from 17th to 5th position. 6th position, sorry, because of Lando Norris. But yeah, he did a great job. Lance Stroll as well did a decent. I think he got held up a long time by Ricciardo, but I don't know if that's just, you know, he didn't really make the move, or Ricciardo was doing well in terms of defensive manoeuvres. Obviously, when it came to the second to last lap, Stroll went down the inside of Ricciardo in turn 3. Went for a gap that wasn't really there. I think Ricciardo was a bit disappointed that, you know, he didn't get the place back in terms of after the race, because he just sort of dived down the inside and was making no attempt to turn the corner, obviously locked up, which could have, you know, had an effect in terms of Stroll not making the corner, but he was no way making that turn. And obviously Ricciardo had to run wide. As he said in the interviews, if I hadn't run wide, you know, we both would have crashed. So I think Ricciardo was a little bit disappointed that he didn't get anything in regards to, you know, maybe getting another position, or maybe Stroll having a penalty or anything like that. And then Norris just sort of overtook the pair of them, and then, like I said, overtook Perez as well. And Norris around that track, I'm hoping it continues everywhere, but looking good in that McLaren. And like I said, getting 5th place, you know, got a podium last weekend. McLaren third, I think third or second. Let me just have a look in terms of the constructor standings, but it's looking good for McLaren. I'm not going to lie, I'm actually really happy. In second place, so Mercedes are on 80 points and McLaren Renault are on 39 points. Red Bull are on 27, so really consistent in the first 2 races for McLaren, and it's looking obviously really good. Hopefully Hungary is the same sort of circuit as Austria, so I'm hoping that McLaren are just as good at that circuit as well. Lando Norris, like I said, again, tremendous job. Carlos Sainz as well did a good performance, and I think they worked well as a team in the Styrian Grand Prix as well. Team orders working well there. Sainz let Norris pass, at a great opportunity to allow Norris through. Something that can't really be said to Renault. I think in the first couple of laps when Ricciardo was on the medium compound tyre and Ocon was on the soft, you could see the softs were failing for Ocon, and it was best to let Ricciardo by, but obviously the team didn't speak about that, and Ocon was defending like it was the last lap, as some of the commentators were saying, and it was absolutely true. I mean, why not just let Ricciardo get by? He's obviously got the better tyres for the longer stint, just let him go and see what happens. But yeah, Ocon was defending the position like mad, and I think that obviously played an effect. But yeah, in terms of McLaren, great job, really good performance. Racing Point are in 4th place with 22 points. Ferrari, obviously with their double DNF this weekend, are in 5th with 19. Renault with 8. AlphaTauri with 7. In 8th is Alfa Romeo with 2 points, and then you've got Williams in 9th and Haas in 10th as well. Another disappointing performance from Haas. You didn't really see a lot from them. To be fair, saw more from Williams than we did from Haas. So really disappointing the first couple of races for Haas F1, and hopefully that doesn't continue and we don't see a car that was a bit like the one we had last year, which was just really poor, and obviously Haas would even admit that car was poor. Quickly look at the driver standings. Bottas, like I said, is still in the lead with 43 points. Lewis Hamilton, obviously with that win in the second race, gets 37 points, but important for Bottas, like I said, to get that second place. And obviously crucially as well, Lewis Hamilton didn't get the fastest lap, and that went to Norris as well, so that obviously helped. Norris is in 3rd place with 26 points. Charles Leclerc in 4th with 18. Perez with 16 points in 5th. Verstappen in 6th. Sainz in 7th. Albon in 8th. Gasly in 9th. And Stroll finishing off in 10th position. So yeah, in terms of the Styrian Grand Prix, I would probably rate it a 7 out of 10. I just think obviously did have a few battles in it, didn't have as many retirements, didn't have as many manic things. There weren't obviously safety cars galore like we had in the first race in Austria, so it was okay, but I think I'm now looking forward to a new circuit, and obviously the Hungarian Grand Prix this weekend coming as well. So that's my review of the Styrian Grand Prix. Let me know your thoughts. Did you think it was a good race? Are you looking forward to a new circuit now? Have you had enough of the back-to-back same circuits? And yeah, I'll be doing a preview of the Hungarian Grand Prix, should I say. I didn't do a preview for this one because I thought it'd probably be close to being the same as last week's in Austria, and I was just going to go and do a review. So yeah, looking forward to do a preview for the Hungarian Grand Prix. So yeah, I look forward to doing that. So I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.